Welcome to Adapt It, the show where we discuss adaptations of various forms. My name is Tom, and with me is...
Pat.
Today, we're discussing another person who didn't win the Nobel Prize in our Nobel Prize show, and that person is...
We said we just needed a break from the Nobel Prize winners. We needed to get a few authors of definite quality. So
Yes. Yeah, and so we got Zola to start.
started with Zola. I mean, again, I didn't dislike Zola, but I would. He's still a higher merit than some of the other guys winning.
He
So now we're
is, yeah.
getting to our first really great one.
Yeah, really great one, and that is Anton Chekhov. And Chekhov, does he need an introduction? I
Yeah,
feel
sure.
Zola does,
Just give
but
him,
we
give him
can
a
give him
brief,
an
give him a brief.
brief introduction. So he's born in 1860 on the Sea of Azov in Russia. He was the grandson of a serf and the son of a grocery store owner. The Chekhov family moved to Moscow when his father overextended in buying a new building, overextended his finances, and tried to avoid being thrown in jail for bankruptcy. There, young Anton trained as a doctor, became one, and took on the responsibility of caring for his family. He wrote and published regularly, usually short fiction, but it wasn't until 1887, with a visit to the Ukraine, that he wrote the story The Steppe. And this is what defined his art very early on and captured the public attention. Later that same year, 1887, he was first commissioned to write for the theater, and he wrote a play that became Ivanov, which is his first full-length play. Not performed very often. It doesn't really compare to his later
He had another
plays.
play before that, but
Did he have another play before that? Another
yeah,
complete
I
play?
saw it. I saw
Oh,
it.
okay.
Did I never tell you this story? I can't remember the
I
name of it.
think you saw it. I think you told me that's the one, the Chekhov festival, right?
Yeah,
Where what was the play he wrote before that? Was it
I can't.
Plantanov?
Yes, yeah,
Platinum. Was
Platinov or
Platinum?
Platinov, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Was
full length
Platinum
play.
Oh,
I
it's
mean,
completed?
it was long. I mean, it was.
Oh.
I
Hmm.
don't know. Maybe they had put an ending on it for this. I'm not sure, but yeah,
Oh.
they did. It was, yeah, it was Platinov or I can't. I thought it was Platinov, but I don't remember. Um, but it was yeah. So when I was in London for a while, and they did the National Theatre there, which is one of my favorite theaters in London. It's on the other side of the Thames, and they did a full day, or they did three plays in rep. So I think normally they would do them in like, one on like Tuesday night, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday night, something like that. But on Saturday they did all three on the same day. And so the first one was it was at the Young Chekhov Festival, and so they did Platonov I think at like 11, and then they did the Ivanov at like 2, and then or something like 2 or 4 or something like that, and then they did the Seagull at night at like 8 o'clock. So you basically just like hung around the theater all day and went to dinner, and it was a really cool day, just to see some of these early Chekhov plays. So anyway, I know he did have that play. Maybe it wasn't complete. You can see why it doesn't work. It's like it's pretty funny when you watch it on stage. And you're like, he doesn't know how to get people on stage. Like he doesn't know how to introduce characters, because it's clearly very rough. It's a first play, and even Ivanov is pretty rough. It's weird. It's probably his most slapstick comedy of a plays, and then you get the Seagull. But it's weird to see his early plays. But anyway, he did have Ivanov. Yes.
He did have Ivanov. Yeah, and a lot of his slapsticky stuff, as you're saying, a lot of it's in the short plays. The short plays tend to be
Yes.
much more of an obvious comedy type,
Like the
you know.
bear. My favorite is the bear, where the guy just keeps breaking the furniture accidentally
Yeah,
because he's
the
so big and he
bear.
just keeps grabbing things and
Mhm.
ripping pieces of
Yeah.
furniture apart.
What's the one, the undeniable damage of tobacco smoking?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the just the long monologue about it's supposed to be like a professional talking about the problems of smoking tobacco for health, and it just rambles off randomly on the problems in his life. It has that actually has like a very David Foster Wallace feel, that one.
It also has
Um,
like a David I. I was gonna say
or
David
David
Ives. It
Ives,
has like a
yeah.
David Ives feel to it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, But anyway, so 1890, he visits the penal colony on Sakhalin Island, and was horrified by the treatment of the people there. He worked on the island. He wrote a treatise on the treatment of the people of the island. And ultimately, coming away, he concluded that government intervention was the only way to help them, and that charity was not an aid to the peasants' problem and might even contribute to it. This is a theme that comes up in a lot of his works, including this work that we read for today. So that was a big influence. That was in 1890. This work is published in 1892, so it's shortly after. This work being The Wife, and it was part of a collection published in 1892, The Wife and Other Stories. First translated into English by Constance Garnett. Who else?
Yay! I read that.
Yay.
I read her translation. Did you read hers?
I read her translation. I don't know
Yeah,
if
hers. Yeah.
somebody else translated it.
I couldn't find one. I had a little trouble finding a
Yeah,
translation.
it's not a popular story. It's
I'm
not one of his.
surprised. It's a
Yeah.
pretty good one. It's one of his better.
Yeah,
I really like Chekhov short stories.
hmm.
This is one of his better ones, I think.
Yeah, it's not when you look at anthologies, because I went through another anthology of his and it wasn't in there.
Same thing. I have like at least I think five or six sets of Chekhov stories, and there's often duplicates amongst them. And I was just assumed when we picked this one, I'm like, oh, this one clearly the wife will be in there somewhere. I have so many of them. I'm like, it's not in here. It's not in any of
The
these.
bride is often there, but not the wife.
Not the wife. And then it was like, and then I actually got a set on Amazon because I put in the wife, and then it was like I get the set, and I'm like, this is like the blacksmith's wife. This isn't the wife. This is the wrong story. So I finally just got a copy online, of like the Constance Garnett translation because it's just in public domain now. You can just get it for free. But it was still, I don't really like reading on my phone, but for a 50-page story or whatever, it's fine. But it was just funny that it's not in any of them. Like I have a decent number of them. Just no, didn't have this one.
It's not very popular, no. Which is surprising. And it was surprising how hard it was to find, as you're saying. But anyway, Chekhov dies in the summer of 1904 of tuberculosis while visiting Germany with his wife, Olga. And he had a very odd relationship. You ever read about Olga Chekhov?
No, never heard anything about her.
Well, she was the protege and part-time lover of Danchenko. Do you remember Danchenko? Danchenko was Stanislavski's partner in the
Oh
Moscow
yeah,
Art Theater, and Stanislavski would like design the rehearsals, and Danchenko would run them. And Olga was the protege of his and his lover also. And the arrangement Anton made with her was they would live in different cities even after they got married.
yeah.
So she can work on her acting and he could be left the hell alone to do what he wanted to do and then just come together for like vacations and things like that. And apparently it was an arrangement that worked out very well for both of them. Um, so that's the story of Olga Chekhov. But anyway, she visited Germany with him, 1904. He dies. He's pretty young at that point. He's like 64,
Very
I
young.
think.
Or
Yeah.
was he that old? I thought he was younger than that.
Wait, 60. No, he's 44.
Yes, I was gonna say I thought he was a lot younger than that.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
44. I'm sorry. And so he dies. He's very famous at this time, mostly for his short stories. And then as the years come along, he becomes probably now more famous for his plays.
I'd say in popular imagination, he's more famous for his plays. I think amongst readers and especially writers, I think his short stories are equally famous. You don't think so?
Um, I don't know. I guess it's just my focus has always been on theater more than literature, despite my despite my degree. Uh, so I've always associated him with with the theater more firmly.
I guess it's just like in every writing thing I've ever seen or read, he's always just
Oh yeah,
like
it's The Lady with the
it's
Dog is
yeah,
always
it's just like it's Chekhov, like that. You're gonna read some Chekhov short stories. You gotta know Chekhov if you're gonna be a writer. Like I just feel like amongst especially writers, he seems to have a very high reputation for his short stories.
yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, that's fair. It's interesting. He seems to develop the short story. right? Like he seems to be
He's
one of the
probably
people
the
who
first great
short
practitioner of the short
story.
story. Like
And it,
I'd say he is. I would be willing to say. I think I can't think of maybe Edgar Allan Poe.
mhm.
Like does some pretty darn good
Poe's
short
doing
stories,
something
but
different
Toe's doing
though.
something different. Yeah, that's why I would
Mhm.
say the first modern practitioner of the short story and master of the modern short story is probably Chekhov.
Yeah, and it's also he's the first. He's not the first, but he's between him and Ibsen. He's also the original master of realism
Yeah,
as well
of
on
realistic drama.
stage.
Yeah,
And so it's interesting to think of, is he better known now for his short stories or for his plays? I think in both cases, the casual film watcher, theater goer, or reader wants realism. They want the
yeah.
thing that Chekhov developed. So if you're more interested in watching movies or going to the theater than, let's say, reading, I mean, I don't know why you would be an either or, but whatever. In either case, I think he's seen as the founders of these genres just because he's so closely associated with the beginning of realism.
Yeah,
Um, but anyway, he certainly, I think, was when he died more known for his short stories. And I
I think that's
think
true. I think his plays were no one quite got them. Like they were kind of muddled. My understanding was,
the
uh,
initial Siegel was muddled, certainly. And
yeah.
then later, Stanislavski takes it over and it fixes it up and it becomes a very famous play after that. I
But
don't know
my
how.
understanding is that Chekhov didn't even like Stanislavski's productions
Mhm.
of his plays, didn't he? Didn't he call him like the weepy director? He kind of
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. It was like
And he was like,
when I
"Why are there 17 people on the stage in the Seagull? Isn't there like people walking by with like chickens?" Apparently, it was just like he had this like absurd stage thing. It's like all these people walking by the windows carrying things because Stanislavski wanted to feel like a lived space, and he was like, "What? Stop with all this other stuff."
Yeah, I remember he said something like the stage direction she weeps was not meant to be taken literally. They don't have to always be crying. That being said, I think Stanislavski's a big
I, I
reason why.
I think he
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I would
Chekhov's
agree. I
famous.
think Chekhov
Mhm.
didn't like them, but I don't think Chekhov's play. I think Chekhov's plays would probably. I mean, I think they'd be famous in their own right. I think they would be discovered probably later, but I think Stanislavski's productions are what make them famous at the time. I think that's why. I don't think they are without him.
Yeah. Yeah. And so much of it is just the foundation of acting is associated with them and it
Yeah,
works well. Like if you want to learn how does a person who is a professional actor approach a role, you can do that with Chekhov's plays. It works really well. It works for a range of characters, for a range of ages. It's teachable. That's the thing too.
yeah.
It's
We should
teachable.
we
And
should mention we were both in a Chekhov play
we were both in a Chekhov play together. We were in
together.
the
I mean,
Seagull.
we're in the Seagull. Chaika.
Yeah, and I was the old man, Soren.
You had a good role.
I had a good role. I liked the role. Yeah,
I was lucky I got cast.
yeah.
I had
Was
like the smallest speaking role.
mhm,
Like
yeah,
I was like the caretaker who would never
mhm,
let them take out their horses.
yeah. And I was the older brother of the
Arkadina.
female lead. Yeah, one of the
Okay.
two female leads. Yeah,
What was his name? Soren or something?
Soren.
It
Mhm.
was Soren. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it was Soren, old man Soren, which I grew a very long beard that I dyed white. So, and people kept asking me, why didn't you take it off when the play was over? And that
I
was
didn't
that.
remember that, honestly. I did not remember that you did that.
Yeah, no, I did that, and the costume designer is going to be mad at you. You have to give that back, and but yeah, that was a good experience
It was a
for
lot of
for
fun.
some of us. Yeah,
Of his four great plays, Seagull is my least favorite. But
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess so. I think revisiting Vanya, as I did for last year with Vanya on 42nd Street. I think you did that podcast with
yeah, I
us.
was there. Yeah, yeah, I was there.
Yeah, it's that used to be my least favorite, but after
Vanya is
revisiting
my
that,
favorite.
it's
Vanya is my
it's
favorite.
probably my favorite also. That or Three
Vanya is my favorite.
Sisters. Um,
Yes.
Three Sisters I like a lot, though Three Sisters does have this like villain character that is not typical of Chekhov and seems, I don't want to say cheap because it isn't cheap, but it's more conventional. I would say
Yeah.
that that you don't have that in Vanya. And I think actually Vanya is probably the closest to this short story in this film,
Yeah,
anyway.
this film is clearly, and it felt like the movie kind of borrowed a lot from Vanya. Like they this is a great sort of, it's an adaptation, but it's also inspired by, like they take it in a different direction. They quote it quite a bit. They sort of take it in a different direction. And it did feel like at certain points I was wondering, did they take this monologue from Vanya? Like it sort of felt like certain sections of it were lifted from Vanya, which is fine. It works well here.
But we should start a little bit with the story anyway. Just the general plot, why we liked it, and so on and so forth.
Should
So,
mention Dostoevsky too, since the movie takes some
and
from
yeah, and
Dostoevsky too.
Dostoevsky. And when we jump into the movie, we'll bring in
Yeah.
the brothers Karamazov influence. But anyway, with the story, the wife, not the bride, and not the wife of the blacksmith,
It wasn't the blacksmith one. I can't remember what it was, but anyway,
just the wife.
just the wife.
It's a man. He's a landowner, right? And he is there's a sort of poverty going on with the peasants. There's a famine, excuse me, going on with the peasants, and they're eating like the tar off the roofs and things like that. And he's married to this woman.
Well, they say they are. That seemed a bit ambiguous later on, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he's married to this woman who he is much younger than he is, and is they're sort of living in different parts of the house, and they don't interrupt each other. Right, which is after reading about Olga Chekhov, I
yeah,
thought
this is clearly, yeah, this is
this
something something was
seems
coming from real
familiar
life.
to this man, and he wants to do something for the peasants and doesn't seem to know what to do. At one point, a few peasants seem to have stolen some of the grain and a few bags of grain, and they set the police off on them. And then he has the wife, and the wife meets with someone, and he's it's a not a school teacher. The school teacher's in the movie.
The school
What?
teachers in the movie,
It's
I don't remember what it was.
yeah, it might
The
be a
story.
doctor. I think it's a
I
doctor.
think it. Oh, it's a
It is the
doctor because it's
doctor,
always
right?
Chekhov
It's a
always is a doctor. It's a
yeah, he's
doctor.
a
Yeah,
yeah.
Chekhov always is a doctor.
It's a doctor, and she meets with him, and then she kind of tells the husband to go away. And what you find out is she is meeting with people with this doctor to create a subscription service for donations to give to the peasants and help with the peasants. And she just doesn't want him to be involved in any way. And it's because she dislikes him strongly, but she can't really put her finger on what it is about him. It just seems like he hates everything, according to her, which seems suspicious. I don't quite think she's right, which is part of the interest of the story. And she kind of wants to do this on her own. But when looking at the papers that she puts together, the kind of subscription papers, it appears that she hasn't done the job particularly well. Like it's not well
Yeah,
organized. She
she
doesn't
doesn't.
know
Yeah,
what
she
she's
doesn't have
doing.
receipts. Yeah, she doesn't have receipts. She hasn't organized anything. She's got like some donations are in kind. Like she's basically like, you're gonna get. I mean, it does sound like she is gonna get in trouble. Like someone's going to take advantage of her and use this as an excuse to launder money or swindle her. So that seems accurate. That she
Yeah.
isn't doing this very well.
Yeah, no,
But she sort of. But this is the like, it's my thing. I want it, let me do it. Like I want to succeed or fail on my own. It seems to be her attitude towards it.
yeah. And so he finally goes, fine. He puts down his own donation anonymously, which comes off really poorly in her eyes. He says he'll leave for Moscow. He goes to the train station, decides he doesn't want to do this. He goes to his friend's house, gets drunk or hangs out with them. Somebody comes, a friend of his comes over, then the doctor comes over. He gets insulted. They get in an argument. And he eventually returns home, decides he doesn't really know what to do for the peasants and decides he's going to write a very long book on the history of trains in Russia. And that's it. That's how it ends.
But pretty much the description. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you get this sort of sense in the story, first of all, of the couple, which they don't like each other very much, and consequently, the things they say about each
Each
other,
other at all.
they don't like. Yeah, they hate each other, which is softer in the movie. They tone that down a bit, even though they're lifting actual dialogue from the story. But that means you don't necessarily trust the opinion about the other person from the person,
Yeah.
right? You don't trust the wife's opinion about the husband necessarily, even though she says you're kind of full of hate. You write all these things. You hate um conservatives because they follow tradition too strongly, but you hate anybody who has a progressive view because they're not respecting the past.
Yeah, and
He
you
just
hate
hates
people who are
everybody.
religious. Yeah, you hate people who are religious because they're stuck in superstition, but you hate people who have no religion because you think they're amoral, and it's you hate everybody. Um,
It's like a hipster thing, right? It's this
yeah,
like, yeah, just you're just slinging shit at everybody in order to look good. And she is actually going to do something. She's going to be hopeful and not nihilistic and do something. And in the end, nobody seems to be able to do anything for anybody. Which is, this is why I brought up that story of Sakhalin Island and Chekhov's kind of observation that charity doesn't seem to work particularly well to help people. It's a big theme in Russian literature, right? Trying to help the peasants
that's
and
insane. And then just
screwing up
never.
helping the peasants. Just
Yeah, I
not
mean,
happening.
it never works. It just
Mhm.
never works. No
Yeah,
Russian story has ever had anybody successfully help the peasants.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Mm.
but yeah, I mean, there's an interesting because yeah, to your point, the biggest lie or the biggest way to tell whether or not some of this is a lie is, you get his perspective, and obviously he could be lying at some point in there, but it does, assuming he's telling mostly the truth, it sounds like he, for the most part, came up with the idea of helping the peasants on his own. Like he kind of heard about it and went, "Oh, I should try to do something. Like this seems like something I should help with. Like I don't really, he doesn't want to, but he sort of says, well, I feel like I should do something. And then he tries to, and he kind of gets smacked down, and everyone just kind of yells at him and tells him to stay in his selfish place. And he sort of, there's this idea of he's like, but I wasn't being selfish. Why are you, like, why are you telling me to go back to my own selfish ways? What if I was trying to do something good here? I'm not even allowed to do it. So there is sort of, I think, part of the idea is just they have this vision of him as that type, and maybe it's justified, but like many people, people are complicated. They're not always one way. So since he has been that way in the past, they've just decided this is what he will always be. So if he tries to do anything differently, they just shove him back into their sort of model and they tell him to stay in his lane. So there is sort of this idea of, well, it does seem like you are being a bit unfair here. He does seem like kind of a douche, but at the same time, you're not even letting him try to do anything nice because you're just like, no, you're a douche. You have to stay that way. You can't, you're not allowed to be good. And that does feel like partially what's going on. And that's why it is kind of complicated to sort of understand what is he, what is so bad about him.
Yeah, I agree with you because you never get the the view his view of the world. You don't get the view of the world that the wife ascribes to him. What you get is a guy who's he's old, he's a little out of touch, but he seems earnest that he wants to do something. And like you're saying, to your point, everybody's like, no, 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 you're just a jerk. But we never get the jerk. We get a
We
guy
never really
who's,
see him do anything particularly bad, but
yeah.
everyone should say, but everybody, but literally everyone says he's the jerk. So
Mhm.
this is like a classic sort of modern. This is why I say this is like a very modern short story. Is he just lying like the whole time? And there's sort of this like everyone's me, but or is it just like nah? He's just kind of maybe he was a jerk, but we never really we don't see it, and everybody says it, and you kind of just for a while you assume it's right, and then you kind of go, but I don't think I've seen him be mean or do anything. The movie's different, but the book is, you never, I don't, you kind of go, I don't know if he is a jerk.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's even with the school teacher, excuse me, not the school teacher, the doctor. The doctor, when they're having their drink, when he goes to his friend's house and they're having a drink together, accuses him of sending the guards out or the police out after the peasants who had stolen the grain, which I don't think he does.
Well, I mean, again, this is where you kind of wonder. I think he had complained to like the governor. But in this, actually, there are a couple incidents. So like he complained to the governor or whatever, like the local mayor or somebody, and he was like, "But I didn't tell them to do anything." But you sort of have this person of like, "But what did you think they were going to do?" Like you
Yeah.
clearly knew. And I think he has a reference in the train station where he talks about the guy who the station master that he's complained about the station master before. And so you sort of get this impression of like he almost seems like the male equivalent of a Karen. That almost seems like I don't know if there's a term for that, but like
Mhm.
that almost seems like what he is. He just kind of complains to everybody, and he complains about everybody. That's like the most you
Mhm.
kind of see of him being kind of mean and being, and he does seem to be a little bit of a busybody. Like he is a bit dismissive to his wife when he
Mhm.
tells her that she's not doing the charity thing right, and there is this sense there that but she isn't doing it right. She is gonna get in trouble here. There is
Mhm.
a strong sense that he's not wrong, but he just seems to be kind of condescending. And so he's a bit condescending. He does seem to complain a lot about other people. And so that's why there is sort of this impression of like he's awful. And
Yeah. He's distant. He isn't
yeah,
awful. He doesn't, like, to your point, he doesn't get that what's going to happen is the police are going to do terrible things to this peasant, right? And that actually he can spare the grain. It's just when somebody steals the grain, you tell the governor that they stole the grain. That, like, that's just what you do. It's there's a sort of dumbness to him. And it just seems like maybe the legitimacy of the complaint isn't exactly what the wife is saying, but more like just wake up a little bit. Be a little more aware. I think the irony is no one else is any more aware than he is. Right?
no, no,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So it ends up becoming this thing where everybody is capable of sort of commenting inaccurately, but with partial truth on each other, but without seeing it in themselves. And so it's a world that will eventually return to stasis. Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you can't see the mote in your own eye, you really cannot make a change. And if you can't make a change to yourself, you ain't helping 10,000 peasants, right? And eventually they come to this logical conclusion that they'll give, whatever, with these 10,000 ruples will be able to help 200 peasants every week. We'll give one a meal or something like that. They
Yeah.
come to this sort of conclusion that's very cut and dry and almost certainly will fall apart. It almost certainly won't work. And I think that's what I found so intriguing about the story. We want to talk a little bit too, before we jump into the movie, some things we are talking about offline, uh, was Chekhov and Beckett. Do we want to jump into this conversation now, or should we give some of the
Maybe do it with the
movie?
movie. Let's do it with the movie.
Let's go
I
into
think
the
it goes
movie.
better with the movie.
All right,
The
fair
only thing
enough.
I would just quickly, so we didn't, we couldn't do him because he died long before it, but we didn't do Dostoevsky. So before the Nobel Prize, and Dostoevsky's my favorite author, and Brothers Karamazov is my favorite book. So the movie does borrow one incident from Dostoevsky, and it borrows an incident from the Brothers Karamazov where the sort of hero who's this sort of saintly figure is attacked by a local boy and has a rock thrown at his head, and it turns they sort of the boy then spends some time trying to figure out why did this kid throw a rock at my head.
He bites his fingers, right?
Andy bites his finger. Yeah, he throws the rock at him, and then oh no, you're right. He
They throw
throws the
rocks at the boy.
That's right. The boy, sorry, now I remember now that it's the other boys are throwing rocks at him, and when he goes to stop him, the boy bites Alyosha's finger. Yeah,
Mhm.
and like really apparently bites it like really hard.
Mhm.
And then that's right. It's the finger biting thing. But the rock throwing is the other kid. So clearly there the movie takes that incident and lifts it out and sort of borrows it for this.
Hmm. And it's what ends up happening is it turns out Alyosha, the hero, his older brother had humiliated
The
the
boy's father.
father of the boy. And that's why the boy was being bullied, and it's also why the boy bit the finger of Alyosha. And there's a solution or a payoff to that incident towards the end of Brothers K that happens also in Winter Sleep towards the end of there, which we can touch on.
Yeah.
But anyway, jumping into Winter Sleep. So Winter Sleep is from 2014. It is a film by Nuri Bilge, which I'm sorry, Nuri, if I got your last name incorrect. Oh, I'm sorry, Nuri Bilge Ceylan. Okay, good. Ceylan is a little easier. And it's a Turkish film, as I said. It was submitted to the Oscars for the foreign language nominee, but did not get it. The Oscars would not nominate it. It did win the Cannes Film Festival in 2014, the Palme d'Or, as well as a number of other prizes. And Solana's work is generally well regarded. He wrote it with his wife. He had been trying to write for about 15 years this story from the Chekhov short. So this has been a passion project for a while for him. And it follows a Aydin, a man who is a former actor and has inherited a mountaintop hotel as well as a number of other properties in Cappadocia from his father. He rents these out from local tenants, and one day when collecting the rents and coming home, a rock is thrown at his car, breaking the window. It turns out to be this boy who is the son of one of the tenants who hasn't paid rent in a little while. That becomes a conflict between the tenant and the landowner, with the brother of the tenant kind of interrupting and trying to smooth things over. He's like a local imam who tries to help these things. Of course, there's also Nihil, the wife of Aiden, who is also much younger, who is trying to organize a charity. You don't know what the charity is for until the end
Schools.
of it.
They say schools,
Well, she ends up bringing the money to the family.
but they say it's for schools.
Oh, okay. I thought that was
No, they say it's for schools. They say it's
not
supposed to be.
accurate, but I thought that
I'm
was
pretty
kind of
sure
what.
it's. No, I thought that's what they say because he brings up that. I thought it was pretty, and I thought that's why it was like the schoolmaster is there, and
Mhm,
it's sort of why he's like the schoolmaster is just trying to get the money for himself because he's
mhm.
running the school. I thought that's what it was, but
Yeah, the
maybe I
impression I got
misunderstood.
was that's what they said, and then she takes the money and brings it to this family.
Well, she takes the money that the husband gave. That the
Oh,
cash
it's
that he
only
gave.
the money that.
I think
Okay,
it's
I
only the
see.
cash that the husband gave. The rest of it is still technically there. But
For the
because this was
schools.
an anonymous cash donation that she gave no receipt for, she can do whatever she wants with it.
Fair enough. So anyway, she's organizing this, and she seems to have grown quite distant from her husband, and she wants him to go away, not to Moscow, but to Istanbul. And he agrees to this, but just like in the story, he at the train station decides he doesn't want to do this. He goes to a friend's house where he gets very drunk. He gets insulted, not by a doctor, but by the school teacher this time. Then he comes back home, shoots a rabbit, and decides,
This is
oh,
where I was like, "Oh, you this is the seagull." I was like,
oh
"You
yeah,
just
I know.
this is
This,
just the
I,
seagull, but just with a rabbit."
yeah, that we could have done without that. But anyway, the wife takes apparently some of the money and goes to the tenant who had been insulted, the tenant whose son had thrown the rock at them, and gives them the money to pay for things they need, as well as the rent. And in the eyes of his son, well, not in the eyes of his son, while his son is watching, the tenant takes the money and throws it into a fire, showing that this woman
They
doesn't.
can't buy. Yeah, you can't buy me.
Yeah, yeah,
You feel
exactly.
guilty. You don't get to buy off your guilt by
Mhm.
giving me money.
Yeah. And it ends with them back at home. We should also mention another major supporting character is Aiden's sister, who was recently divorced, and
She's
in
wonderful.
she's wonderful, and she is such a Chekhov character. In
Yes.
Chekhov, there's these characters who are either too hardworking, like they're just working all the time,
Yeah.
or they're just so lazy.
They're just
Right.
I'm in mourning for my life. That's still, I think that's my favorite Chekhov, like individual Chekhov line. And I think it's the opening line of Seagull, actually.
Oh, is it?
I think
Yeah,
it's the
this is.
opening line. I'm in
Hmm,
mourning for my life.
hmm.
And I just love that line. And it's spoken by this character who she's just the dullest person ever. All she does is just moan for no reason. Like she has nothing to be sad about, but she's just constantly, I'm in mourning for my life. And then, she gets married to this poor man and treats him like dirt the whole time. I love that character. But yeah, they're full of these characters who just are.
Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy because you have the people like in Vanya, you have Vanya who's working all the time, and then you have Yelena who is just she's so bored and just wants to do something but can't do anything. She's just useless. She's just pretty. That's her function. She's pretty, and so people want to be with her, but she has nothing to do. And around her, a bunch of people are working. And that seems to be the case here, where you have this sister who is a pretty reasonable critic of the people around her.
Yeah,
Um,
she's probably the most perceptive of them.
mhm. But she has nothing to do, right?
Yeah.
She just lounges all day. She just sits on a
I love, yeah, she
couch and
just sits on
reads
this couch. She just sits on this couch behind him the whole time that he's
while he's
working. And
working.
it's this like short chaise lounge couch. She can't even like lie down all the way. And she just sits there with like a blanket on. She doesn't even read. She just stares at him. It's great. It's a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
moment. She doesn't do anything.
yeah. It's
And then she has the whole monologue. I love when she talks and she's like, well, sometimes the people who are working the hardest are those doing the least because we're thinking all the time. And he's like, you're not thinking about anything. You're
yeah.
doing anything.
Yeah, and it's one of the things this movie gets a lot of things right. And one of the things it gets really, really right is that it has characters criticizing other characters in partial truth. These
Yes.
characters never seem to get everything right when they criticize someone or describe someone. They get a lot of things right, and they seem to utterly fail to recognize their own problems.
Yes.
That's they completely the sister is
Or what they
very
think are their problems are not their problems. They
yeah.
think they this is, yeah, it's like in other people they miss their virtues, they get some of their virtues right and they get some of their problems right, and then they miss other ones, and then they often miss themselves. Like it's just nobody can quite figure out anyone entirely.
And the director treats everything they say with he never underlines it. He never underlines or emboldens,
No.
whatever highlight tool you want to use, what's right and what's wrong. So you as a
No.
viewer have to engage with these characters and figure out, do I agree with that? Do I not agree with that? Is that fair? Is that not fair? It's a really great film watching experience. It would make a great play. You could adapt this as a play, and it
You
would
could
be an
you could easily make this
excellent
a play,
play.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it would be a very good play too.
Yeah.
I love the sequence when they're sitting at the table and they're debate. One of the I think it's the one of them brings up the point and says, I think you should let evil people do evil because then if you don't fight them, they'll feel so bad.
Yes.
And
The
then,
sister. This is the
yeah, the sister
sister's
says it, and then the
project.
wife agrees, and this whole thing. But I just love the argument because the husband is just, you can tell, and they keep saying, they're like, you're not understanding it, you're intentionally misinterpreting it. He goes, I'm not misinterpreting it, it's just this. And they go, that's not what she just said. And he goes, that's what I heard. And he go, it's not what she just said, and they just, you can hear this sort of like, this is an argument that people have all the time. And it is true. He is willfully misrepresenting what they just said. And then he's just being kind of and you watch that conversation, you go, that is a very, very, really good bit of dialogue. Just really brilliantly written dialogue. And the argument between the brother and the sister at one point, just they're just insults back and forth. And it just starts with her, and he says, oh, what did you think of the article? And she gives sort of an opinion about it that's not complimentary, but it's just sort of, and he says, oh, well, I can take it, other people might be insulted. And then it just goes and it goes and it goes and it goes and it builds, and then by the end of it, they're just like, they are absolutely brutally cruel to one another. And you watch that sequence go, and it is brilliantly written dialogue as they just keep swinging at each other, and you can see which punches land and which ones miss. It's like a boxing match, and it works so brilliantly because you can see them. It literally, it feels like a boxing match. You can watch them dodge certain insults, but then get really hit by other ones, and then they try to send their own insults, and they clearly miss the mark on some, but others are, some are right but don't hurt, some are wrong but actually do hurt even though they're wrong. Like it's really good dialogue. It's just really brilliantly written insults and just all this stuff, and it's fascinatingly accurate.
Yeah. And it's speaking of that scene too, where the young wife is saying you are
Oh no, I was talking
will
about when the sister and the husband are arguing, the sister and
yeah.
the dude are arguing, not when the wife.
No, no, no. But I'm talking about the when
Oh,
the
at the
three
table,
of them are
at the table,
talking,
yeah, yeah,
right?
when the three of them are talking, yes, yes.
Well, and that scene is it's she what's happening in the scene too is the wife is looking to disagree with the sister, but he is, as you're saying, willfully misunderstanding. So she can't disagree with the sister because she has to like attack this guy. It's like, no, she's wrong, but you're not getting, or you do get the point. You just don't want to. You just
She's
don't
wrong,
want
but
to.
your way of pointing out that she's wrong is wrong.
Wrong. And
Like I don't
then
agree with her, but I also think
you're
you're intentionally not understanding her
mm,
point. And
yeah,
so your argument against her is wrong.
yeah.
So it is like, but this is what people
It's
do.
yeah.
It feels like an internet forum at certain points. I'm like, my gosh, this feels like a comment board.
Mhm.
You know, it's like you both are you're intentionally not understanding each other's points and then just insulting one another as you do so.
And then later, the sister and the wife return to that conversation.
Yeah,
And so you end up getting like you end up having to put a pin in it, and then you see why the sister feels that way. It has to do with her experience with her ex-husband, who you're led to believe was quite abusive to her. And she has this kind of bizarre martyr complex
yeah,
about like and it's a very strange detail in her character. And then there becomes an argument between the two of them, because the wife thinks having a martyr complex is kind of silly, and she's like, do what you want, but this is really stupid. Um, but that touches on that former conversation, which is really about how willfully ignorant the husband is. But later on, it becomes a conversation which expands the sister, and it goes, ooh, this woman's a lot weirder than I thought she was before. It does that constantly, and then moving towards the end of it, in a lesser film, you would see the old husband with the young wife who realizes that he's been holding back the young wife, and she actually has a
yeah.
lot of ability, and she could go start this charity without him. There is the potential for a very dumb feminist interpretation of this story. And instead, they adapt the story in a way that it should be adapted, which is, yes, he is um kind of, I want to say dominating, but insufferable probably to
Yeah, I mean
her.
the most insufferable, and again, this is a credit to the actor because
Mhm,
it's really good acting.
mhm.
They're really good. Like I don't think there's a weak performance among this,
Mhm.
right? There's nothing.
No, no, it's a very, very strong cast.
Like everyone, even the I which again it was sort of weird watching it because they do switch into English at one point when like they have the Asian tourist who's staying there and he speaks English and so the Turkish guy has to speak English to him. Even that guy's the just the random tourist in the background is good. Yeah, they're just like everyone's really good, and it's like the guy who plays the imam is really good. The guy who plays the brother is really good. The guy who plays the kid is really good. The kid who plays the kid is really good. I don't think there's a single character in there where I went, oh, that was not a great performance. Like they're really good. So, but the single most insufferable moment, and this is where I went, my God, and like I know he's not as bad as he seems, but there are moments where I'm like, I want to smack that guy. Is when she's going off on this sort of like she has a fairly long monologue about what's going on and why she's sad and why all this kind of stuff. And the camera keeps going back to him, just kind of smiling at her, like
Mhm.
listening. Do you remember that moment?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And he just kind of keeps going back, and he just the smile on his face. You're like, oh man, you are such an earth.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you really just kind of want to be like, you are such a condescending jerk right now. And you haven't said a word.
Mhm. You haven't
Like,
done
and that's
anything.
you
That's
haven't done anything. You're
Mhm.
just sitting.
Mhm.
And I mean that's good acting. Like
Yeah.
that's really good. It's good directing too. It's
Mhm.
good. It's good. They cut it very well, and just his
Mhm.
expression is the way it works. It's really good.
Mhm.
And so things like that are just where you go, wow, this is a good, darn good movie.
Yeah.
Um,
And that monologue's taken almost word for word, well, not word for word, but pretty close to the story. That's the story
yeah,
about no, I'm not angry at you because you're older than me. That's not it. It's something else. It's this trying to find what he's guilty
and that's
of.
that's where she goes off on the yeah. This is where she's trying to figure out what he's done wrong, and those the examples that we gave. Like you don't like pious people because yada yada, and you don't like people who don't believe and yeah, it's lifted straight from the story. And again, you kind of hear it and you go, is she right? Like I've never seen that from him per se. Like
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. In some ways, he actually seems like the opposite.
Hmm. Yeah,
And you
no,
kind of go,
I agree
I
with
don't know
you.
whether yeah, I don't know whether that's true. I haven't seen it, but she's obviously seen more of him than I have. But what I've seen of him, that doesn't seem accurate. So who's right? And then they kind of cut it with like, yeah, but he has that smirk on his face right now. Like, so it's a
Yeah.
very hard. This is why Steven Spielberg, I joked before last week at the end of our last episode. That's why Steven Spielberg would be horrible directing this, because it is not at all obvious what any character actually is. Even when we see it, it's really hard to do in film. Like you can do it in a short story because we only have the narrator's description of what's going on. It's really hard to create that kind of ambiguity in film, and this thing does it. You just kind of go, I don't know what to think of any of them, and that's great. That's a really brilliantly done. It's a brilliant way to present the story. It's really hard, and this movie does it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree entirely. That scene was a highlight for me in the film when I first watched it. It was these are all the
First
things you've
watched it.
done
Did you
wrong.
watch it twice?
No, the only time I watched it.
We didn't mention. I should probably warn people.
It's
It is
3 hours,
long.
20 minutes. It's a long movie.
It's a
Um,
long movie. I assumed it would be like an hour 45, 2 hours. So we had to delay last week because I went to go watch the movie the morning of this and went, oh shoot. Like I can't watch all this. It is a long movie. It is worth the time, but it is long.
it's just the time is justified, but
And the time is
set
justified.
it
I'm not,
aside. Just
yeah,
be
but
aware.
just
Yeah.
throwing that aside,
Hmm.
it is very long. It is worth the time, and they
Hmm.
shouldn't cut much. Maybe the thing with the rabbit. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought
The
that was
thing with the
stupid.
rabbit. The thing with the horse, maybe too, is a little.
Oh yeah, that was really stupid too.
Yeah, that's it's so the thing with the horse we should start there because it's earlier in the movie. Early on, somebody mentions in that so this man runs a hotel, as I mentioned before, and the guest there early on says, "Oh, can I ride the horses?" And they're like, "Well, that was just in the brochure. We don't actually have horses." And so he goes out and hires a guy to capture a horse to kind of break a horse. And
So
then
that his guest can
ride a
see a
horse or
horse.
see a
Just see a
horse.
horse.
I guess see one. Um, and eventually
Because
he's
they're like, oh, we have all these wild Cappadocian horses. We want you to see one. So he goes and yeah, he catches a horse.
mhm, yep. And then later he lets the horse go.
Yeah, that was a bad. But even that, the only it's a bad moment. It's a bad moment if let me rephrase. It would be a really bad moment if at the end of the movie he goes to Istanbul and leaves her, and that's the there. Who is the horse being released, and who is the whatever. That's
Mhm.
what a bad movie would do. But the irony is, okay, so he lets the horse go, but he doesn't let her go, or she doesn't let him go. Like you could make an argument that there's a little bit more going on because it doesn't have the trite ending you would expect. But I don't think it justifies it. I think it's just bad. I think it's just
Yeah,
bad.
you
I
can
don't
get
get it.
these points better without it because it just does look trite. And the
Looks
horse
trite.
looks unbelievably pathetic, right? He's
Yeah.
the horses the problem with with children and with animals is their pure innocence. And in this movie, no one's really, I don't want to say pure or innocent. No one is that simple. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
I
So
mean, even the boy who is a child who throws the rock. I mean, you just look at the kid and you go, man, that is a hate-filled kid. And that's why I say it's a very good performance by the kid. That kid is gonna be a problem. You can just see he is an angry child, and he hasn't done, he just, you can just see him seething. And so you're just like, yeah, that's not it. That's not innocence. Like that is absolute unmitigated rage. And that's why I say it's a very good performance by
yeah.
that kid. But just it's a stifled rage, and the kid has like two lines, and that's what. And they love the line when they go, "Oh, are you going to be an engineer?" And he goes, "Police officer." And
Yeah.
you go, "Oh God, like what is he? What are you going to do?"
Mhm.
You just see, you're like, "Oh God, it's a great sequence." And so yeah, no one's really innocent. And so yeah, just having this horse like foaming at the mouth as it's dragged out of the river on ropes is sort of be like, what is the point of
You're supposed to feel
this?
bad for it. Yeah. No, and then the ending is, I think it's a really good ending. The rabbit, I'm going to support the decision to do the rabbit because I think it's like
We
he
should describe what the rabbit is.
okay, yes. So at the end he decides he's going to stay. He's not going to Istanbul, and he goes out hunting, and at one point his foot is hurting, so he takes off his boot, and while he's standing with one boot by a river, he sees a rabbit and he shoots it and he kills it. And pathetically, with he looks very silly with his one boot on. And then he comes home to his wife, whose charity effort has failed, and she's sitting in the second floor window looking down on him, and he holds up the rabbit, and then as this kind of gesture of I'm coming home, we're going to try again. And you just see her in the darkness, miserable, looking down at him. um, you had mentioned that this is sort of the seagull reference in the play The Seagull. Somebody shoots a seagull and it dies, and one of the characters who's forlorn describes herself as a seagull later on, that she's
I'm
a
the seagull. No,
seagull.
that's not
No,
right.
I'm an
I'm the seagull.
actress.
No, that's not right. I'm an actress. That's
Yeah,
why I don't like that play.
yeah,
That
it's
scene. I've never seen that scene done well.
mhm.
It's just I don't know what you do with it.
Yeah, it's a little whatever, but
I'm a seagull. No, I am an actress. Like it's just it's a little too it's a
mm.
little bit too much of like Smeagol. I am Gollum. I am Smeagol. Like what I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you really did it well, you could pull off the drama. I just don't think it works. So anyway, when I saw this, I was just like, oh, he's shooting an innocent small creature. It's clearly just like they just, and this is a Chekhov thing. They clearly just are doing the seagull with a rabbit. And
I think with him though, his at the end he's so proud of it. Like he holds it up for her. Like that's the offering or something like that.
yeah, fair.
And then she is just like, well, she can't see it or she doesn't care or she's just done, right? She's just trapped there. I really hated the shot of the rabbit as it was dying and it's still breathing. We look at it and
Yeah, I
it's
mean that I guess
still
that's my thing is like
breathing.
I just thought it was
Mm.
I don't. Yeah, I thought that was manipulative.
Mhm.
I don't know what. I don't know how you would end it differently, but maybe you didn't need to make it quite, especially after 3 hours and 20 minutes. Maybe you could have shortened that
Yeah.
sequence a little bit. I've been very patient with you so far, movie. You could speed this along a little bit now.
Yeah. But regardless of the rabbit, I do like that ending. I love when he the
I do really like, I mean, I did, that was the moment I went, oh, I do find it funny that he's carrying the rabbit, and he's got it, that I thought was funny.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, I think funny is the right word.
Yeah, and it
Um,
is, and he's like pathetic about, and like the whole even the shooting thing, right? He's just got the one boot on. I think
yeah.
that's why, like when they cut to the rabbit and it's still breathing, it hasn't quite died yet. Doesn't really work because the whole thing is he's going to do this masculine thing, and he's just kind of he looks very very silly doing it. He's sort of
Well,
emasculated
he's
while
doing
doing
this
it.
masculine thing to a rabbit.
Yeah, it's
Like
also
it's a
it's a,
damn rabbit.
that's
How
it's
how
not a
you
buck. Yeah.
you're not even killing an animal that's bigger than you. You shot a rabbit with one shoe on. Like
Yeah.
there, there is a certain level of, maybe I will buy this incident now. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with you the more I think about it.
Yeah.
That is, it's funny. Like there's that is just pathetic. You needed a gun to kill that? Like it's a rabbit.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's his gesture. I'm home now. It's this like little rabbit he's killed out there, and you could see that she sees him finally for what he is, I think, which isn't he isn't this like he isn't this guy who hates everybody. He's just sort of jerky and not really aware, and what he
Yeah, I
wants
mean,
to.
even the line, and again, this is a little hard to tell. And the scene where the imam comes to him and basically says, "Can you help us out? Can you please help us? Like, can you not evict us? Can you do stuff?" And he basically says, "I don't have anything to do with this. Go talk to the lawyers. I don't, go talk to the lawyers. Go talk to my caretaker. Like, I don't deal with any of this." I mean, the reality is, of course, if he wanted to do something, he would just tell the lawyers and then the caretaker to stop. He can at any moment. He claims impotence, but he's really not. And I mean, maybe that's the point at the end of the thing here is like he claims impotence, but he's really not. He can shoot a rabbit with only one shoe on. He could certainly deal with the lawyer. He continually claims impotence, and in the one moment where he kind of is impotent with his one sock on in the snow, he manages to shoot a rabbit. So if he wanted to do something, he could. There is sort of this sense here that he's constantly saying, I can't do anything about it. It's like you could, you own it, you hired them, you could easily stop this situation. You either don't want to or you just don't care. So there is a certain callousness to him. But yeah, he's just sort of he's not cruel or mean. He's just boring. He doesn't want to deal with any of this and none of us want to deal with that either. We don't want to deal with the bum on the street who comes and complains to us and smells. Nobody wants to deal with this. And yet we all could do something, but we don't. And this guy is sort of doing the same thing on a slightly bigger scale because he has more money and he owns more wealth
Yeah, he
than
affects more
everybody else.
people.
Yeah, he affects more people. But the reality, he sort of sits at the top of this mountain in his little cave and you know lords it over everyone below him, but at the same time, he doesn't do anything. He could do more. He doesn't really want to. He'll come down occasionally and do something, but for the most part, he's not malicious. He's impotent to a large extent.
And yeah, what he wants to do at first is he gets a letter
Oh yeah,
about
the letter.
a women's school in this village, and he's well, what do you guys think? And he's going to rescue this school or
But
something
even
like
as he reads it, he goes, I'm gonna, and he spends forever reading all the compliments that the letter has, and then
that.
he finally goes, oh, well, that's enough of that. And then he proceeds to read another compliment from the letter. This is why this movie has brilliant dialogue because that's what people do, and I love that. It's just such a good little piece of dialogue. But yeah, he gets this letter and he sort of compliments himself throughout it and says, "Yeah, this woman has written to me saying she wants me to help with the school," and
What do you
he
guys think?
doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and he
they
asks,
and
"What
they
do you guys think?"
and they also think it's a dumb idea. Like there's more problems out there. It's interesting though, is the wife says that, and then later we learn the wife is trying to raise money for her own
Well,
school, and
that was
yet
what I
that she
assumed.
was.
I assumed that was the well. That's what it's in the book too. Is when he says to them, he says to the doctor, and he says to her, "Well, I want." Oh, that's not the doctor; it's the friend. And to her, and he says, "I want to raise money for peasants, and they both kind of dissuade him from it because she is already
Oh,
doing it,
doing it.
and they
Yeah.
don't want him stealing her thunder.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what at first though you don't know that in that scene. And so
No,
you have to kind of go back and reevaluate what her motives are. Is she honestly saying there's more important things to do with money than a women's technical school, or is she just trying to keep the money for herself? You're not entirely sure what her motives are in the movie. It seems a little more clear in the story.
in the story it seems more
Yeah.
clear, but
Yeah, it is just it's a very much worth your watch.
it is 100% worth the watch. Like,
Yeah.
it's worth the time. Spend
Mhm.
it. Maybe if you don't want to watch it in one night, don't watch it in one night. But it is a really, really good. We this is another one of these cases where we have like a really good writer, and we just have this movie that's it's kind of sparkling. Like, it's really good. It's not short, but it's really, really good. It's really good dialogue. It's incredibly written script. It's beautiful. Cappadocia is beautiful. I love Turkey and I love Istanbul, and so this was a nice fit for me. It's one of my favorite places to go in the world. But so it's beautiful scenery. It's a wonderfully directed, wonderfully cut, really well written. One of the best acted movies I've ever seen. It's really worth it. This should be worth more people's time. This should be higher on people's lists of movies. I don't know why it isn't. I guess the length.
The length, Turkey doesn't have a wonderful film reputation. I don't know much about Turkish film.
I don't know anything
Um,
about Turkish film except for
yeah,
I think it's the first Turkish film I've ever seen. But
yeah. So I couldn't tell you why people don't appreciate it more. My guess is just it's slow, it's long, nothing happens in a
it's wonderful. It's a
in a
beautiful
significant way.
movie.
Yeah, but
Everyone should watch it.
it
It's really
looks
good.
good.
It's
I,
beautiful. It's a really yeah,
I want to watch the movie that won the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film that year and see why couldn't this at least be nominated?
nominated.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on. Yeah, I mean, what were I want to watch all the other movies that were nominated. Were they that good, or was it just too long and the Academy is too
Yeah.
lazy?
To deal with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, yeah. But anyway, worth your time, and Chekhov is worth everyone's time.
yeah. So, two things I want to do
Oh, we didn't talk about Beckett.
was talk about Chekhov and Beckett, and then maybe on an outro why this guy didn't win the Nobel Prize, right? He lost it to Bjornson. Um, but I think the more interesting conversation is Chekhov and Beckett. And so we were talking about this on text, and of course, we're referring to Samuel Beckett, the future Nobel Prize winner and playwright of things such as Waiting for Godot and Endgame. And you had some um, ideas about comparing the two of them, Chekhov and
Well,
Beckett.
it occurred to I mean, I love Beckett. Beckett's one of my favorite playwrights. And it occurred to me watching this that it really reminded me of Endgame to a large extent, and even Waiting for Godot. And it's something I went, oh my, this is why because one of the big things that's always sort of puzzled me about Chekhov is Chekhov, none of his plays were referred to as sort of tragedies or dramas, except for Three Sisters. But in Siegel's called a comedy, despite the fact that the main character shoots himself at the end
It ends with a suicide.
with a
One woman is
suicide.
ruined, and the other guy commits suicide. A
Yeah, the other
comedy
one
by
has
Anton Chekhov.
yeah, the one of them has had a baby who died in childbirth, and she's ruined, and the other one, yeah, shoots himself at the end. So, and this is called a comedy, and I've never have understood it. And it occurred to me, I went as I was watching the movie last night, and again, this is why I think the dialogue is so good in it. I went, this is a Beckett play. This is Beckett. This is what happens with Beckett plays when in Endgame is about the liter and sort of Waiting for Godot sort of applies the same thing that this is the end of the world. Both of they take place at the end of the world, and there are characters who are just sitting there with nothing else to do, and so they have to play games literally with each other. They just play games to pass the time because what else are they going to do while they wait for the world to end? And Beckett's sort of existential point is that's what we all go through. And I watched this thing and I went, Chekhov, this is Beckett. This is just Beckett in realism. It's not absurd. but it is absurd watching the sister and the brother just bicker and bicker and bicker with one another. You go, this is just Dee Dee and Go-Go. This is the same thing they do. And there is this sort of sense that this is the end of the world. They're just sitting there at this mountaintop with snow, and you never see anything. It's just desolate. And I thought this is reminds me so much of Beckett, and this is why I think this is what Chekhov thought was funny. Is the same reason that Beckett is funny, because it's absurd what they're doing and what they're talking about and what they care about, and this just sort of desolation that surrounds them while they play verbal word games with one another and talk about shoes. And I thought, this is when it occurred to me that I think I don't somebody needs to do this. Somebody needs to write the thing of the line from Chekhov to Beckett, because I think it's a lot less indirect than you would think. I think there's an absolute direct line from Chekhov to Beckett, and it made me suddenly go, oh, that's why Chekhov thought this was funny, for the same reason that Beckett thought Endgame was funny. Nuclear war with people living in trash barrels shouldn't be funny, but Endgame is funny. People shooting themselves and women, going insane after having, their children die shouldn't be funny, but they are. And that's what Chekhov thought was funny. He sees the absurdity in it, and Beckett sees the absurdity too. And I think there's a direct line. And it sort of made me, I was like, oh, this is cool. I wish I had thought of this 20 years ago, and I could have written a really cool paper in college.
It's a really, really good point. I really like that because in Waiting for Godot, they're constantly trying to commit suicide. And they're arguing like, okay, we're gonna did you bring the rope? Oh, you didn't bring the rope. Okay, okay, next time bring the rope. And they bring the rope. Well, if I hang myself, if I help you hang yourself, who's gonna help me hang myself?
And what
Oh,
happens if I hang myself on a branch that's weak and it kills you, but the branch breaks and then I can't hang myself and then I'm alone? I don't want to be alone. That's not fair. Who's going to hang themselves first?
this is, by the way, like a Laurel and Hardy skit, who are the actors he intended initially to play this. He wanted Laurel and Hardy to play this. So it's people talking about committing suicide because they have nothing left to do, and the only meaning they can find in their life is how to successfully commit a double suicide when you only have one rope and a weak branch. And it's actually
And
is
it's funny. It
it's
is very
really
funny.
funny. Last time I saw this was with Ian McKellen and Patrick
Yeah, same
Stewart,
thing. Yeah,
and
oh,
it's
yeah, I saw that one too.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that one too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
it's
they did a who was it? The other Nobel Prize winner, the guy who won 2005.
oh, they did Pinter in that
They did
same.
Pinter. Yeah, they did
Yeah, I didn't
Pinter.
see the Pinter one.
The Pinter was bad.
Was it? I don't
Yeah,
really even remember what Pinter play it was. It wasn't one I
I don't
was
remember.
familiar with. Yeah.
It was not. It was. I had no idea what Pinter play was, and I don't remember. I have no idea what it was. It was
Mhm.
completely
Forgettable.
forgettable. I watched it as a double. I watched it as they did the matinee, and so they
Mhm.
did Waiting for Godot in the afternoon, and they did the Pinter play at night.
Oh,
I
that's
think there's a
unfortunate.
good reason why they did it in that order.
They had more people
Because
and then
I think anybody gonna go see that Pinter
staying.
play.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad.
Oh, that's a shame.
But the Waiting for Godot
They're
was
waiting for
funny.
Godot is good,
The Waiting for
but
Godot was good because
yeah.
they're a good pair,
Mhm.
and they're funny pair.
Mhm. But it's still the same, like you're saying, it's people waiting, trying to figure out a way. What do you do when you wait for death? Or what do you do, what do you do when there's nothing out there, when you're just sitting around in desolation? And these people find stupid things to care about,
Yeah.
right? They find dumb things. And in The Seagull, it's like Arkadina worrying about her star falling. In this,
And for Constantine, it's his stupid play. His
yeah, his
stupid
stupid
play.
abstract
His
expressionism
play is
play.
so bad.
Yeah, it's a really
And they're
bad.
all they're all worthless.
Mhm.
Even the one of them who's still famous, the writer dude, is
Mhm.
he's also worthless. And they're all sitting here surrounded by in their Russian opulence while the whole country's going to go into complete chaos in 20 years.
Mhm.
And they're sitting there debating about the horses.
Yeah.
There is just this like it that's what it is. That's the humor. That's why it's funny.
Mhm. And yeah, in the movie, it's he is writing a book about Turkish theater.
Yeah.
Like he's going to write his grand, and it ends with him sitting down to finally write his book, which is hilarious, right? Because that's normally like in a lesser movie, that would be the success. It's like,
Yeah.
I got my demons out. Now I can sit down and
Now I can
finally
sit down
write
and
my
write my
book.
book, like that stupid, like what was that one, the Lost Weekend. That's how the
Yes,
Lost
yeah, yeah,
Weekend
yeah. The
ends.
Lost
Yeah,
Weekend
so
adaptation, where
that's why
he's
the
like,
Lost Weekend is a terrible movie. Great
mhm,
book, terrible movie,
yeah.
because it ends with him being like, "I'm gonna write my book," and that's, this one ends with, "I'm gonna write my book," and you go, "But it's gonna be a terrible book.
And
We
it
all
also
know it."
doesn't matter, even if it's a good. It's like a complex history of Turkish theater. It's even funnier in the story because it's a history of Russian
Railroads, yeah,
trains,
Russian
Russian
trains, like,
railroads. And that's going to
who
be his great
cares?
accomplishment. And it's just kind of like you've solved no problems. Outside is a disaster. Your family life is a disaster, but you're going to sit down with your
But you
glass
have
of
started
scotch
your
and
book.
write your book. And it's hilarious, but it's tragic.
But
Um,
it's tragic, and that's where I go, that's, now I get it. Now I get the jokes. You're Beckett, but 50 years too early.
yeah. Yeah, you don't have the kind of theatricalism that Beckett had
You don't have
access to.
absurdism.
Yeah.
Absurdism isn't around yet.
Hmm.
But he's Chekhov is pointing out the absurdity, but in a naturalistic style,
Hmm.
because naturalism is a style, not a genre.
Hmm.
Uh to
I
borrow
I want to break down the distinction between style and genre. I think there's something permeable about these definitions that don't necessarily allow them to be corded off
I disagree. I
in different
disagree.
camps.
I
But I think
disagree, but
that's
I think we
a
could do it.
conversation for another day, possibly.
Well, there was it. We did this with Chekhov once. Well, we did it with not Chekhov. We did this. When did we do? We did it with KJ once. What was it that we were debating on style versus genre? Do you remember this?
I don't know.
It was
Was it
during one of our earlier
expressionism?
episodes. It was one of
Yeah.
our early seasons, and we were
Hmm.
like, "No, that's a style, not a genre."
Hmm.
And I just feel
Was
like,
it melodrama? Were we talking
I
about
thought it was
melodrama?
film noir.
Oh, it was noir. Yeah, that's right. It was noir.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that noir is a style, not a
Not a
genre.
genre. Yeah.
So yes, so remember, naturalism is a style, not a genre. So that's the thing, is he doesn't have naturalism as he doesn't, he only has naturalism to work with. He doesn't have absurdism as a style. So he's sort of stuck. But I think if Chekhov had lived 50 years later, he would be writing better absurdist plays than Beckett. I think that's the way that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Beckett is, yeah. Yeah. And I think it's harder to find to make people laugh at the end of the sequel.
Yes,
You can't do
you
that.
can't.
I remember when we were at college together, and one of the other professors there, kind of visiting professor, said, "Oh no, the way the play should end is you should be laughing right until the gunshot, which is how the play ends with a gunshot." I mean, like, how do you plan to make that work without this being like, how is the audience supposed to be laughing hysterically at Nina's monologue about being a Sikh? Like, how is this supposed to work? And
Unless you're going to do it as just her monologue is stupid. I am a
which you
seagull. I am an actress. But
I don't
then
know if
it's
that
just like,
works.
yeah, and then I don't think it
Hmm.
does.
Yeah, but Beckett
Um,
figures it out because Beckett is able to, he has access to absurdism.
yeah,
He's at that period where that becomes accessible to him and he could make the play in that way. And it's a really good observation.
it hadn't occurred to me until I watched it.
Yeah.
When I watched their scene between the two of them, and I went, "This is Dee Dee and Go-Go. That's what they do. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly what they
Yeah.
do."
Mhm.
And it's yeah,
Mhm.
another paper to write.
Another paper to write. One of these days we'll finish writing all our papers. All right. Do we have any other observations to make about this movie, about this story,
Well, we
about
didn't
the
say why
sequel?
Chekhov didn't win the Nobel Prize.
Oh,
I would say
because
because he
they're
died.
idiots. Yeah.
Because he
They're idiots
died.
and he's dead. That's
He
it.
died too
End
young. I mean,
end of thing.
he's
I
another
mean,
one. I think he and Zola both probably would have won it if they'd lived another 15, 20 years, but they both died too young.
yeah, there was also a lot of problems with Russians, with giving Russians
Fair enough. Yeah.
awards. They did not want to do that at the time. And so there's a bit of kind of political tension going on between the Norse and the Russians, which that might be an interesting history, but you could
That'd
have
be more
given
the
it to
Finns,
him.
but I would have thought it'd be more the Finns and the Russian. I wouldn't have thought the Swedes and the Nords would have cared as much, but
Apparently, the Swedes and the Russians
The
were at
Finns didn't
odds
like
at
the
this
Russians.
time. Yeah, well, the
Yeah.
Finns, obviously, for good reason. But apparently, apparently the Swedes were not happy with the Russians at this time, so there was no political energy to meet it.
The
Um,
North Sea is probably complicated. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and also, who would remember Bjornsson then? How could you forget Bjornstjerne Bjornsson? He would just be forgotten, and that would be a tragedy for us all.
Really missed out on
Yes.
Gladgut.
The,
The
the,
happy boy.
the kid is good. Yeah, that's
The
what I
glad.
kept translating into my head. Is like the kid is good
He's
instead of the happy boy. It was
a
dumb
very
title.
Gladgut.
Yeah.
Gladgut. All right.
All right. Should we
Take us out.
check out of here? Let's see. What do we got for next week? Sure. We could do Marshall Schwab. That's fine with me. You can rate and review this show anywhere fine podcasts are available. For those viewing in YouTube land, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the Talking Studios channel for all our exciting content, and follow us on social media at Talking Studios. Check out other shows by Talking Studios, including Talking Pictures Trivia, where we explore movies through trivia, Keep Making Movies, where we explore micro-budget films, Limited Lexicon, where we play through text-based adventure games, and Get the Point, where we slowly reveal a movie poster and try to guess which movie poster it is. Got a question for us? Call the Talking Studios hotline at 201-467-8679 and leave a message. It may be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Adapt It, wherever fine podcasts are found. Join us next week when we discuss the story Barguette by Marcel Schwab and the film adaptation L'Atlantique. See you then.
Wow, Talking Studios.
Next week, we'll be discussing the no Nobel Prize winner, a person who didn't win the Nobel Prize, because this show covers writers who both won and didn't win the Nobel Prize.
Well, the people we think should have but didn't. So
Should be in the. I'll say this: should be in the conversation.
yes.
Yes, should be in the conversation. So there should be a reason we're going to say why they didn't win or why we think it's suspect that they did win in the case they did. But anyway, next week we'll be discussing Marcel Schwab and his 1892 story collection, The King and the Golden Mask. And we're focusing on Barguette.
Baguette. It's le baguette. Le
Le
baguette.
Baguette. If you're from
It's some
Boston.
kind of bread.
Oh God. All right. So Pat, who would you hire to direct this piece of bread?
I mean, I wouldn't have said Le Baguette. I was just going to go with like his work in general. And I think
Or
the
his work
obvious
in
answer,
general, yes.
yeah, his work in general, I would say David Lynch. Like that
Mhm.
seems an obvious person to do this guy's work. The King and the Golden Mask is quite fascinating as a
That's a
story.
good story. Yeah.
It's a good story. Like I would
Mhm.
love to see a David Lynch short film of the King and the Golden Mask. Like I think that would just be really weird and would be really fun to see. So I'm going with David Lynch.
David Lynch would be good. I'm kind of going down that street. I went with Alejandro Jodorowsky.
I don't know.
He actually was the Holy Mountain was his big movie. I'm not the biggest fan of his, but he does kind of um like surrealistic movies that are a little larger scale than Lynch. So like he does like Western surrealism and things like that. And he did, speaking of David Lynch, who did Dune, initially he was hired to do Dune and came up with a huge set design and a an artistic concept that was so crazy they ended up scraping the whole project. And there's a documentary about it, Jodorowsky's Dune, which is about his concept of Dune. And I can imagine the big sort of atmospheres and especially the landscapes. There's a lot of landscape stuff going on in the story collection, and he would be good for that, even though I am not the biggest fan of his movies generally. I still think he would be the right person for this job.